He was blind.
Guys,
Let's ask our blind audience. When it rains, can you see the
Jesse, they
glowing
can't-
silhouettes of people?
Jesse, they can't hear you. They're blind. Come on.
Horror movies in October are one of the great joys, even though we watch them all year. They are a little bit spookier this month, and we have found one that I think is pretty spooky to talk about today. We are going to talk about the movie Oddity, but before we do that, I, as always, am your host, Rob Coakley, joined by Dave Wilkins.
Hello, Rob Coakley.
And Jesse Wilkins.
Happy to be here, folks.
And we are going to talk about Oddity, as I just stated. But before we do, as always, Dave, why don't you hit us with a synopsis of this movie?
Oddity, 2024, directed by Damian McCarthy. After the brutal murder of her twin sister, Darcy goes after those responsible by using haunted items as her tools for revenge. Short and simple.
Yeah, that might be the shortest synopsis we've ever had in this history of movie reviews.
You can always tell when the director or whoever doesn't want a lot to be known about the movie, which I think is the best way to go into this movie. This is a great movie to go in blind. I turned this on.
Interesting wording.
Yeah, right. I turned this on a couple of weeks ago after I heard a couple people mention that this is possibly the scariest movie of 2024, and it was getting pretty good ratings. So I was like, I'll give this a shot, but had no idea what was going to happen. So this movie, just to give it a real quick how I thought about it without spoiling it, because it is something that I think you should go watch. You should watch it if you're into this type of thing, and then come back and watch this review.
Because we are going to spoil the shit out of this movie, just for those of that are unaware of the format of this show.
That's right. But just as a general spoiler-free thought on this movie, this was a very unique and also very tropey, but tropey in a good way, movie with a lot of very effective jump scares and an ending that tied it up nicely, I thought. As an overall view, it's going to get a good score from me. I think you should watch it. But let's spoil it.
Yeah, let's get into it.
What's funny is it's even shorter of an explanation on IMDb of the synopsis. It's a psychic medium attempts to uncover the truth behind her sister's murder at the site of the crime. Now, while it's shorter, it does give more away, though.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Fewer words, but more detail.
Yep.
But that's fine. This movie had a lot of things that I thought were really cool. And like I said in my overview of it, I thought it was both very unique and very kind of almost predictable in a way. I thought I saw a lot of the twists coming, but they were still effective twists. Like, it was still a good story. It's kind of without certain details on the whole. If you cut out a lot of the details, it's kind of a story that we've all heard before, right? Somebody was murdered and we think it's somebody and we find out it's somebody else. It's kind of like a very tropey sort of horror movie. Now you sprinkle in some supernatural stuff, you sprinkle in a couple of twists, and in a very unique catalyst for revenge, I guess. I don't know if catalyst is the right word, but a unique approach to getting the revenge, I thought was pretty cool. And I think that was probably the coolest part of this movie. And that doll was terrifying.
Yeah, don't like that.
Yeah. As soon as they took it out of the box and set it up and just sat it at the dinner table, I was just like, I would not be cool with this. This would, man, I would be like, you got to put that back. You can't just have that at the dinner table. We have 2 chairs at this dinner table, and that is occupying one of the 2 chairs at this dinner table. I need you to get it out of here. This is ridiculous.
But the way they like only subtly referred to it throughout the movie made it that much creepier. For instance, when she was like, "Why'd you take that out of the box?" and the blind lady goes, "I didn't." And then they didn't address it again, but he's sitting in the chair. It's this big wooden human-sized feature with the scariest look on its face, just sitting at the dinner table.
With his hands on the table, too.
Yeah. Oh, my God. What a...
This was something that a lot of movies could not pull off, or they go away from. And we say it, too, in a lot of movies, too much monster. Mm-hmm. What is it, the monster? It just left it it shifted the jump scares to where you're staring at this thing and you're now suspecting something to be going on somewhere else, or you're going to expect it to move around the house, or that its head's going to randomly just start looking up or move around or something. But for the most part, this thing doesn't do much for most of the movie. It just scares the shit out of you because you're looking at it just in the background expecting something to happen. So they effectively built a ton of tension by showing too much monster in this movie, and it worked really well. It was forever creepy, and it was, like I said, it was just distracting, and it built tensions in scenes that probably wouldn't have too much tension. Now, this movie overall, I enjoyed the effects, a little bit of obvious green screen in a couple spots, and I thought the music was a little overdone for most of the movie. It was a little bit too loud, and it was just too much going on with it. But overall, there wasn't a moment of peace in this movie. It was just tension the entire time. Even when the guy goes to work, right? Usually when a main character goes to work, that's your like relief for me. Like, oh, good, he's around his coworkers. No, he works in a fucking asylum, and it's terrifying there too. So it's like there's just not a moment of peace in this entire movie, and it was really unique the way that they did it, and I thought that was pretty well done.
I want to go back to something you said at the beginning, Dave, where you said it's predictable. And I don't think when something is a predictable element, as long as everything else around it is different, that's fine. I think when you try to do too much is when you run into problems. So I think the overlining story of this movie, right? Like the setup where it's the husband and stuff like that. I thought that was fine. It was everything they did around it that made it good. If when you try to, Game of Thrones is the most obvious example. I'm not going to get into it, but sometimes you need to follow that narrative, right? You did so many good things around it. You can just follow the projected story as it should be done. And I thought this movie did a really good job of that. One thing I didn't like about that, though, when it got too tropey to your example, I thought they were setting something up a little bit differently, and that was the girlfriend. In the very beginning, when you first meet her, she seems, because usually the new girlfriend is very mean and evil in a tropey way in a lot of different movies, right?
Mhm.
And they start her off by being like, "Oh, I found your your dead wife's camera. There's a lot of pictures of you guys on there." And usually you would think the setup is you should delete all of these. And she's
Mhm.
like, "No, you should keep these. It's understandable if you want memories of that time with your ex." I'm like, "Oh, they're setting her up to be a different type of character than normal." And then just like on a dime, she switches into that evil girlfriend character out of nowhere for the most part. Like not evil, but
Right. Well,
very bitchy and stuff.
yeah, but this set the ground for him being the bad guy,
Right.
because it showed that, and again, we're spoiling this. It showed that, since he was the killer, that she was actually the good guy in this scenario, and he
Well,
was
I'm
the bad
saying
guy
she
because
was.
because a murderer would be like, yeah, delete any evidence of her existing ever, please.
Well,
Right.
I'm saying she was good in that scene, but right after that scene when the sister shows up, she starts turning into like the tropey, bitchy new girlfriend.
But with good reason, because Darcy showed up uninvited
True.
and with this big creepy doll, and she's trying to leave. And this scene had some of the best character dialogue in the whole movie was between Darcy and the girlfriend there. And particularly when they're sitting there and she's like, "Have you seen my keys?" And she kind of just gives her a look.
Mhm.
And she goes, "Never mind." When they're talking about the dead sister, and she says, because Darcy asked her, Don't you ever get scared being in here by yourself?" And the girlfriend says, "Well, I don't particularly like it, but I would never let somebody in the house that could murder me." And she goes, "Do I look stupid?" And the blind lady goes, "I have no idea what you look like. You sound stupid."
Yeah.
"What, do I look stupid?" And she goes, "No." She goes, "Good, because of my sister is my identical twin, and she wasn't stupid either." So I was like,
Yeah.
that was a well written scene.
Yeah, it was up until that moment where I realized that there were actually sisters in this movie. I thought, and maybe it was said earlier and I had missed it, but she looked like she was playing like an older lady, right? She had the white hair, and I didn't even realize it was the same actress until I looked up IMDb. I was like, oh, that makes sense if you're playing a twin, but it just didn't seem like the way she moved around. I understand she was blind, but she seemed. I thought she was supposed to be an older lady, and I was
No.
wrong
Yes.
I think it's just the short bleached hair that might have done that for you.
for
Yeah,
sure.
I think
Yep.
that they probably did that because they are using the same actor, so they wanted to distinguish the characters enough so you're not saying, "Wait, is this the same person?" And then they say, "No, they're twins," and it's like, looks like the same person. So
Because it was the same person, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. I I I really enjoyed it. I do have a few issues with it. So you know what? I'm just gonna say I'm gonna spoil the ending real quick because I think they do something really well in this movie that I usually complain about. And I think they did one of the best foreshadowing shots that I completely forgot about until it came back at the end. So in the beginning of the movie, he walks into the
the bell.
shop, the bell. Like they talk about the bell, and it really felt like a throwaway. And I didn't think about it again because I just thought like because it seemed like it was just nothing. It didn't need to be anything else. For that to be the way the movie ended, I loved it. Like I
Yeah.
loved that was the callback because we talked about Alien and how I thought they had a lot of, the new Alien movie. I thought that they put too much in your face
Mhm.
on the foreshadowing and the callback stuff. It was just like so obvious. This was one of the least obvious ones I ever remember. And I don't know if you can think of one even better than this, but this is just so well done.
Yeah, I agree because I also forgot about it, and then it came back. I was like, "Oh shit, it's
Yeah.
back." I was like,
Yeah.
I forgot about because I was like, "How are they going to tie this up? How are they? They're not just going to let this guy get away with this. That would be almost like a frustratingly lame ending. Maybe not even lame, but it would have been frustrating." And I think that they were able to end the movie on almost a sort of cliffhanger and be able to tie it back into the beginning without making it like a stupid callback. So that's a great point.
Yeah. So just kudos to them for that. Do you guys have anything else you want to get into that you really enjoyed with this movie?
That end scene was an accident, I found out. So they were shooting a scene, and then he said that they were actually taking a break. The cameras were rolling, but they were taking a break, and there was that scene with the main actor just sitting there and the bellboy kid there, and the director was like, "Wait, this looks creepy. Let's just put this in and end it right there." That's how they ended up just left it that like that as the ending.
I was curious about that because like he just starts kind of like laughing,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh, that seems like that's really well acted. It seems natural.
It
So it turns
was.
out it was completely natural. So I wonder if someone cracked a joke on scene and or on the set. But thank God the bellboy didn't also laugh. All of that might have been creepy as well.
Might have been.
Yeah, but that was
But
cool.
yeah, that was a really cool way to end the movie by accident.
I loved it. It was perfect.
Yeah,
Um,
this is only the second movie by this director. I haven't seen the first one he did. I forget what it was called. I should have had it in front of me when I mentioned it, but this is only his second one. And I thought that if this is what this guy has to offer, I'm excited to see what future movies he has in store for us.
Caveat.
Caveat, yes, correct. I have not seen that, but I would
I
like
don't
to.
I don't think well now I want to see it
Yeah.
because this was so well done. Really good cinematography, great acting in this movie, I
Mhm.
thought as well. I thought every character played their role pretty perfectly. Uh it's just all around really good. Do you guys have any other good
I have a
things you want to hit
question.
on?
I have a
Sure.
question. What do you think? Who is the protagonist in the story?
The blind lady.
You think?
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's
she's our
debatable.
protagonist.
I don't think.
How is it
I don't
debatable?
I think it could have been the girlfriend, kind of
Okay.
profiled her the whole movie.
Yeah.
She
Kind of.
was
But then she skipped town, and that was the end of it.
that was the end of it. That's why I'm saying I think it's kind of ambiguous. You don't really have like a main character because it wasn't profiling Darcy. She wasn't
Yeah.
she was kind of like the scary lady in the house with who you thought was the main character right up until she split and left town. So it's an interesting way to write a story with no clear protagonist.
Yeah, it moved around a bit. There was a lot going on in a limited space. I mean, this movie really just took place in two places, right? It took place at the asylum and it took place at this house. Very limited cast, great acting all around. I didn't have any issues whatsoever. The monster was creepy, or the wooden guy was creepy, Pinocchio. He was, I didn't love the design of his body with like kind of like the fat hands and I thought it could have been creepier if it was a little more skeletal, maybe, or just not as I don't know. There's something off with the body. The face was terrifying. I love the added addition of the objects inside the head with the scroll, the human
Oh, that was
tooth,
really
and then the
cool.
blood. And that
Mhm.
scene was great. And this is another one of those movies where the blind person just isn't all that blind.
Yeah, there were a couple scenes where I was like, what is this? Like when, for instance, when you were talking about when she was pulling the things out of the head, that one, it was a jump scare scene that was pretty effective, but the blind woman is just standing there facing her, staring at her, saying, put those items back, all of them. First of all, you're staring at her. Like she was sitting on the couch facing the other direction, which means she's stood up and turned around to face her. And then you knew that she took all of the items out of the head and you demanded that she put them back.
Right. Now,
So,
I think the explanation for that would be she has a connection to this thing and she can feel that items were going missing. But there was just quite a few scenes where I was like, well, would
Well,
have
it
been
would
a
be
little better.
breaking the connection. Sorry to cut you off,
Right,
but it
right.
would be
So
breaking the connection.
yeah, but she could, the idea I think is that she could feel that those things had been tampered with. So that's how she
right.
knew.
That's what I initially thought too, but it wasn't the cleanest execution because she didn't react until the last one came out, which maybe she didn't know. Maybe she didn't feel it until the final
Right.
object came out, and that's what made the disconnect. So
Yeah,
maybe
you get this in a bunch of movies, like the entire series Daredevil. Rob, did you ever watch that?
Of course, I did.
Or he's supposed to be blind. He's just not the whole time. Like, well, you can kind of
he's
say
also
he
a
is.
superhero. All of
That's
his other
also explained too.
Yeah, quite poorly in my opinion, but that's irrelevant.
just to rewind a quick minute, we were talking about the costume.
No, we're about to fight about Daredevil for 15 minutes. It's not
my-
explained poorly at all.
No,
was
it's
really
pretty
dumb.
clear.
It's pretty clear why he can map things out and everything with the heightened senses of everything else he has going on. Based on vibrations and stuff, he's able to.
Okay, with the way that they did the
Dude,
show,
the first
I
season,
understand.
it was explained borderline ad infinitum.
I
Yeah.
understand how it was explained, but maybe it's the way that they executed that on camera, where they're showing his heightened level of thing, and it's just he can see everything. It's just the outlines glowing. And anyways, this is not a review of Daredevil. Clearly, we're not going to agree on that. I enjoyed the show; it was great. Daredevil, people don't come at me, but the blind thing was stupid because he wasn't.
He was blind.
guys.
Let's ask our blind audience: when it rains, can you see the
Jesse, they
glowing
can't-
silhouettes of people?
Jesse, they can't hear you. They're blind. Come on. Bringing it back to the costume design for the creature, Jesse, I was going to say that I actually kind of agree with you. The thing was terrifying when it was sitting there. It was terrifying in that one scene where she peers over the balcony and it's just looking up at her.
Oh,
I
God,
jumped
that's
out of
a
my
great scene.
skin. However, when it stands up and it's standing like a full body human, it looks like it's just a dude in a bodysuit, and it completely lost it for me. It didn't look scary at that point.
Yeah,
But what I will say is, like, this could have been, if they missed with this creature design even a little bit, it could have been so stupid. Like, this could have been an absolute failure if they didn't absolutely nail this thing. So I think they pretty much nailed it because it wasn't stupid. There was just, I think that one scene where you saw him from head to toe standing up straight, I thought it looked kind of goofy, but his face was still terrifying.
Face was terrifying. The one thing they did right with the face is they never closed the mouth.
Yeah,
Just left that thing open.
very scary.
this is a movie
Sorry to
that
interrupt you one last time. I want to mention last time on the mouth. The other scene that they expect, I know they expected you to expect this, but when she's sticking her hand in the thing's mouth, you thought for sure that thing was just going to chomp down and bite off her fingertips, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, glad they didn't do that.
This is a
The
movie.
other thing about the I'm so sorry.
You saw
done
that coming.
now.
You saw that
I'm
coming.
done now.
If you didn't see that coming from a mile away, I don't know what to tell you,
No,
Rob.
I knew it was coming. This movie needed a slightly bigger budget. A lot of the things that are wrong with this movie, there's a few other things, but and kudos to them for stretching their budget as much as they could. But to Jesse's point, there was one green screen scene in particular that just didn't look great. And a few of those things could have been cleaned up probably with a bigger budget. But
Which was the scene? Because it's not ringing a bell for me. Was it a driving scene?
no, to me, it was the scene where she sticks her head out the door. It just didn't look right. The ghost sticking her head out the front door. Is that the one you
Oh.
were thinking of, Jesse?
I think so.
It looked not great, to be honest. So if it wasn't green
The
screen,
head looked too big or too bright or something. It just something was off with it.
yeah, it just didn't look good. It looked really green screen. It looked like the green screen ghost you see like projected on houses and stuff like that. You're just like,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
like
Right.
it's like, that could have been done a little bit better, probably. I'm like, why didn't you just have her actually stick her head out the door? And if they did, the lighting was terrible on it.
Right. Like, why wouldn't you use practical effects there? You have
Right.
the actress. Just
Yeah.
that's got to be easier. It's got to be cheaper too than a CGI.
So
What?
it was either CGI'd or the lighting, or if it was practical, it was poorly lit and looked bad. So that scene could have been cleaned up a little bit. It did weirdly took me out of that scene. I was like, that looked terrible.
Yeah. There
So
wasn't a lot of that though. Like I thought the movie looked really good for the most part, and it had some of the most effective jump scares I've seen in a horror movie in a long time. They didn't give me any of those jump scares that pissed me off, like just the fake jump scares where, like, I always go back to The Conjuring 3, where it was just a rat in a box or something like that. They're all legit jump scares that actually hit. Like some of them felt like old school, like Sixth Sense jump scares, which were really good. Like that one scene where she's the girlfriend is looking at the video camera, and they're just of her boyfriend and the old wife when they were camping out the first night when they bought the house in the tent in the living room. And she pans over to the boyfriend. She's like, "Let's see your face." And he pops his head out of the sweater and he looks miserable. And she replays it and plays it again. And she pans back over and said, "Let's see your face." And it's just the dead woman there. And you get that really authentic jump scare.
It was a
Jumped out of my
back-to-back
skin.
jump scare because that one
Yeah.
happened, and then she was also in the bedroom, and that it got me twice. I was like, that was
Which is
awesome.
it's impressive to be able to get a 1-2 punch for jump scares like that. Because typically,
Yep.
once you get that initial jump scare, then you're not going to get it again because I'm already on edge. But they actually pulled it off. I thought it was really, really good, and I love a good ghost story jump scare. When
You
it's
know what
done
else
right.
I'll say about this movie is another thing that they pulled off that a lot of movies don't do and drives us crazy in movies is when the new girlfriend got scared by ghosts in the house, she just left and never came back.
Yeah,
That should happen all the time.
Mhm.
Now, you don't want to do that in movies all the time because that's the end of the movie. But this one, the story kept going without her. But it was unexpected. You expect her to eventually come back and go, okay, but she didn't.
yeah. I love that they did that. I love that they're breaking tropes and they're breaking the rules without having a clear cut protagonist. And if she was the clear cut protagonist, having her leave the movie 3/4 of the way through, that's bold. And it paid off, I thought.
yeah.
Did.
Let's get into some things that we didn't like about this movie, and I can kick this off. I thought there were a few times in the movie that characters didn't act logically. And the glaring one to me, there's a lot of things wrong with this particular scene to me, but the trap door,
That was such a Looney Tunes.
it's just like there's so much that like in that scene, like A, why is there a trap door? B, your plan is you're gonna open the trap door, you're leaving, like you said, Dave, like a Wile E. Coyote trap with the phone on the other side of it. You're going to drive to your office, which we don't know how far away that is. That could have taken you 15, 20 minutes, maybe more to get to. You look like you're in the desolate country there. And your plan is for her to sit there the whole time. She's not going to move. She's not going to move anywhere else within the house. And you're going to call, and she's going to take that direct pathway to the phone in a house that she doesn't know. And she's blind, where she should be walking very carefully around as to not bump into things. And she's going to fall down the trap door. And that's what's going to take her out.
Right.
Also, if you own a home and you have a trap door of death and you have a blind person staying at your home and you leave your trap door of death open by accident, I think you're still at fault there. I think there's going to be a strong case to say that's negligence. You have a blind lady in your house and you left the trap door of death open. Don't do that.
Send his hatchet man to go. So to both your points, just so I agree with you, Rob, that this was a silly scene and it was silly writing. He did, however, send his hatchet man to go, one, make sure she's dead, to Rob's point, and two, make sure her body's gone, to Jesse's point. So I don't think he was planning on saying, "Oh, she fell down the trap door," and I don't think that he just left saying, "Oh, hope that works itself out." They did solve both of those problems, but
Okay.
it was still a silly scene.
But why not just send Hatchet Man in to kill her? You're going to kill her and clean it up anyways. There's got to be a cleaner way to do it than chucking her into her basement, letting blood just pool everywhere. It's just just poor plan, like it's really bad writing on that whole plan altogether.
I don't think it was really bad. I think it was a little bit silly, and it could have been done better. But
I
it's
thought it
not.
was
I don't know if
remarkably
you're taking
terrible.
a
I mean, it works.
It's bad. It's bad
Yes.
because even if there's not the trap door, right? He's leaving the house, and she could just go over there and use the phone to call somebody to pick her up, and she could just be gone. And she knows everything, right? So
kinda. I
if
mean,
you're
yeah,
sending the
yes, she
guy,
knows, but does who's going to believe her?
well, you still don't want that inquiry to start. You don't
Right.
want that thread to be pulled if you're that guy.
Yeah, it's obvious why he had her killed, but you have a henchman who has killed before. There's a better way to do it than dumping her into the basement. But it works out with the final plot where she's laying there dying and she's able to activate Wooden Man.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yes,
I just
very
feel like
true.
there should have been a better way to.
I absolutely agree. I'm sure there was a better way to do it. It was kind of silly.
But yeah, I mean, like, just have a railing there. Have her yelling and like backing her up, and she falls over the railing on accident or something like that. Like, there's so
think
many different ways you
I
could have
think
done
what
that.
they were trying to show was this guy was a bad guy, but he was also a coward and didn't want to do any of the dirty work himself. He sent his hatchet man to kill his wife, and they made that was an interesting scene too when he was setting that up. And the hatchet man, they want to show that he is a really bad guy, and the dialogue between the two characters in that scene will definitely highlight the fact that this guy is legit just all bad. And the husband was also bad, but a coward.
Yeah.
So sent the hatchet man to do the dirty work for him, had to get rid of the blind sister, but didn't want to physically kill her himself. So he set this trap for her so that she would end up stumbling. I think they were just trying to show that he was a coward. Again, I thought it was a silly scene that could have been done better, but I think I understand what they were going for.
Sure. I just wish they did it a different way. That's all.
I agree.
Without
I'm with
harping
you.
on it anymore.
What else didn't you like?
I mean, again, just some of the CGI things. Like, I mean, specifically that one. I didn't like the guy's fake eyeball. I thought
This is
it.
kind of cool.
Not great.
I thought it was too. I thought it drew your attention too much,
Mhm.
and it didn't look. Especially when it was off his body, it didn't look great. I was just like, I wish that was a little bit better. But
Yeah,
that's a
I
small.
guess.
That's a super small gripe.
I thought his character was creepy looking, and the eye made it even creepier. And I liked his character in retrospect. I thought, a really well written character.
Yeah.
Because you thought he was the psycho, you thought he was the killer, you thought he was just a mentally psychotic guy, and he ended up being a genuinely good guy. And Darcy had him killed, and you kind of got her feeling regret for that, but wanted to rectify it.
Well, she killed him.
I know. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
She had him killed, but she felt bad about it when she realized that she killed the wrong guy.
Yeah. But there's another problem, right? Because wouldn't she touch one of his like close objects to confirm it? Or are we just going off? She just was in a rage.
She didn't have his close objects at the time.
She couldn't get one somehow.
How?
I don't know, dude.
She went off the initial report. So the husband had the wife killed, and he framed that guy. So they let him out early so that he could go be like, the whole thing was a setup to frame him. And she was going off the police report and saying that she just took the husband's word for it. She took the police's word for it. This guy got out.
They weren't framing him.
They absolutely framed him.
They did after the fact. There wasn't the plan to frame him.
Are you sure? Because I thought they outlined that when the beginning of the movie, when the guy's like, he's like, oh, he asked him a question. The guy's like, oh, don't worry about it. He's like, I'm out of here tomorrow. I'm just passing through. The halfway house isn't ready for me. Like, why would you put that in there?
Because they had the whole scene later where he could hear them in the office. So he went there because he heard the plot. It wasn't a setup for anything other than.
Oh, so he was wrong place, wrong time kind of guy. I think
he was in the right place at the wrong time. I think they wanted him to hear it. I think he was a part of it the whole time. I think they set him up. They just lucked out that the guy happened to be there and he took the fall for it. Like, what was his plan? Like, just go murder her?
Yeah, that was the plan. That they established a plan in the office. The dude just heard him through the vent, and he knew what was going to happen. That's why he was there, to try to save her.
I'm in a real weird spot between this argument, because I think both things can be true, and I think I agree with both of you guys. I don't know. I think it was implied that he was set up to take the fall for the murder.
No way. It was a happy coincidence for the killers.
Super happy. This was a really well-written story, I think, except for that one small scene towards the end there. But I thought overall, this was just a great story.
Yeah,
Overall, very strong. Yeah, my only negatives again with it is the body of the wooden man was just too obviously full of real men. And then, there was that. Again, I think the music was a little bit overproduced, and then these little plot holes here and there. But overall, it was very strong, and it's going to get a strong rating from me, which I will hop right in right now and say that my rating for Oddity will be a 4.8. Very strong, very good, unique, tension the whole entire time. We're nitpicking at very small things about this movie. I think we all enjoyed it, but for me, it's good. Kind of very high rating.
Yep. I also had it at a 4.8. Oh, you were going to guess?
I was going to see if you wanted to guess each other's scores.
I'm sorry. What would you have guessed? I mean, now it doesn't matter.
I thought you were going to, I mean, all transparency, I was going to guess that you had it at a 4.6.
Okay. I'm going to guess that you have it at a 4.3.
You're also 0.2 off. I have it at 4.1.
Okay. Okay. I think this is easily in the top 3 of the 2024 horror movies that I've seen so far. I haven't seen them all. There's still a couple on my list that I want to see. But for me, I think it's in order, top 3. I'm going to go Alien, Romulus, this, and then the Late Night with the Devil.
Oh, Late Night with the Devil's a good one as well. This one's my number 1 so far. Late Night with the Devil is probably Late Night with the Devil is probably 2, and I have not seen Romulus yet, which is why I wasn't on that review. But I plan to, so that's where I got him.
I think I like Late Night with the Devil better. I don't know. It's so close. I don't remember what my score was for that.
You know, I actually might have rated Late Night with the Devil 4.9. I'd have to go back and look, in which case that would be a slot higher than this, but it's close. Yeah. All these 3 are very close.
I think these lists could be a little bit different, though. Like, even though you rank a movie higher or rate a movie higher, doesn't mean you have to rank it the same. Like, you still like a movie more, right?
Even I agree with that. Like, you say, like, who are the best 3 bands ever versus who are your favorite 3 bands ever, you know?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
I think we were having this discussion the other night, Dave. Like,
we were about bands, yeah.
Like, I'll go out and listen to Post Malone before I listen to the Beatles, but I'm not going to sit here and argue that Post Malone is a better musician than the Beatles. You know, we're not going to have that argument.
Yeah. I think we're talking about Rob.
But if you want to, you can in the comments.
Yeah. Go ahead. Do whatever you want in the comments. Blame us for spoiling the movie, even though we rated it. We already warned you about that.
It is the Wild West in the comments usually. Anyways, that's going to do it for us. Let us know in the comments what your score is for the movie Oddity. We'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.